Yo, what is up, crew? And welcome back to another video. In this video, I am going to share with you the steps that you need to take before you build a chest freezer cold plunge. Now, I've built 2 chest freezer cold plunges, this being the most recent one. And my goal of this video is to show you how to build a $10,000 quality cold plunge for less than $1,000.
We have Joey Wilder, first time coming on the show.
So I'm going to break down kind of a little bit of the process of what I did to build this, and I'm going to share a bit of the cost and pricing. Now, my goal is to show you fundamentally and clearly the things that you need without all the fluff. I'll break down how I built this second cold plunge and what I've learned after 90 days of use. Now, the method is essentially getting into cold or freezing point water and being able to still your breath. And this actually goes back to modern roots. However, we're not gonna get into that. Now, the final one is going to be increased resilience to stress. Now, picture this, getting in ice cold water, regardless of how many times you've done it or how often you do it, it never gets easier. You just get stronger. Now, I want you to imagine yourself in a real life environment when you are stressed and you feel your heart start to beat faster, and maybe you feel that tenseness in your chest, or maybe you feel the shakiness of the legs. Being able to pause and breathe and still your central nervous system, much like the cold plunge forces you to do, does transition and parlay into real life. So if you haven't tried cold plunging before and all of that sounds interesting, stay tuned because I'm going to share with you exactly how to build this and the materials that I used. Starting with the first one, which is the chest freezer right here. Now, I bought this chest freezer from Lowe's during a Black Friday special. You do not have to buy a brand new one. I, however, did, and mine actually had the aluminum lining. Now, there's another type of cold plunge that has just a regular white lining. If you can get one of those, I do strongly suggest that over the one with the aluminum lining. Here's why. If you get the cold plunge or the chest freezer with the aluminum lining and you dent it from standing in it, or if you don't line it with silicone, it will over time crack and the cold plunge generator will break. So with this one specifically, it was $499 from Lowe's during a Black Friday special, and this one had the aluminum lining. So what I actually had to do was I used waterproof rubber sealant. I will post a link in the description for all of these things that I'm mentioning. Now, I used waterproof rubber sealant to seal all of the corners and all of the edges, and then I lined it with black vinyl. Now, I did that, 1, for the aesthetic look, and 2, because I did not want to worry about me applying pressure and the aluminum denting and over time the chest freezer to stop chilling. I will also add, because my goal with this cold plunge was to make a self-sustaining cold plunge, meaning one that I do not have to consistently chill, one that I do not have to turn on and off, and one that I do not have to change the water consistently. That is why I chose to actually get a water chiller. You heard that right. Just because I have a chest freezer does not mean that I do not still use this water chiller that I actually have right here. Now, this is the SD Lule chiller. I've been using it for 90 days and it does an amazing job keeping it cool. Now, it allows you to keep it at a set temperature. You can do that with just the regular chest freezer. However, when you line it with silicone, or if you line it with vinyl or anything of the sort, it does make the chiller that's integrated with the actual chest freezer more difficult for it to get cold and stay cold. So I actually ended up getting the water chiller, one, so it can be self-sustaining, and two, so that way I do not have to rely on the chest freezer itself. You could get a container and build it out in that way. However, I did not want to deal with that. Now, this is the 16 cubic foot cold plunge. I'm 6 foot tall, 220 pounds, and I'm able to lay down completely flat inside this cold plunge and enjoy the experience. The next thing you are going to need is 2 aquarium pumps. Now, these were $21.99 each off of Amazon. I will post the exact link to the pumps that I used in the chat. You can buy a higher quality one. However, these have gotten the job done. Now, one of the things that you are also going to need is an ozone generator, okay? That's what that white thing is on the wall. Now, the ozone generator is going to support in oxygenating the water and keeping a steady flow of water going. The essential concept on why you have 2 pumps going in the ozone generator regularly is because still water is going to eventually acquire mold. It's going to eventually smell, and still water will eventually go bad and gnats will come. And if you don't want gnats and you don't want to get in gross ass water, this is the process that you need to do. So a recap, the materials, you start with the chest freezer, it's $4.99 from Lowe's. Then you will need 2 pumps from Amazon. They're $21.99 each. I will post the link in the description. Then you need an ozone generator. This is $39.99. And then if you don't want to use the cold plunge, or if you don't want to use the chest freezer integration, you are going to want a water chiller because it is going to keep the water chilled at a certain temperature. Now that's $259, okay? Now the reason I recommend doing that is because if you use the integrated chest freezer component, it will freeze the water. Now, if you freeze the water, I don't know if most people don't recognize this, but it's going to be extremely fucking heavy. And these chest freezers are not meant to have frozen water. They're meant to chill food. So when you add water to it and you freeze it, it will eventually crack the foundation, even if you have it lined. And because I did not want to run into that, I ended up getting the water chiller instead, and I keep it at about 36 to 39 to 40 degrees. I do not put it near freezing point because one, I don't need to if I've got it as close to it as I can without messing with the foundation. With that being said, all of that is less than $1,000 to buy. I will also I added these optional accent panels, and this is just to give it more of an aesthetic because I do have the sauna back here, which it does add a nice little dynamic to it. Now, all of that is gonna run you less than $1,000, and if you are looking to get a $10,000 quality cold plunge for less than a fraction of the price, this is how. You're gonna need those materials. Now, as I said, the accent wall panels are not essential, but all of that all together is going to run you less than $1,000, less than $800 if you choose to not get a water chiller. Now, as far as the technical setup, the first thing you are going to do is you are going to line the freezer with rubber sealant. I will post the exact sealant that I used in the description. Once you line all of the corners, you're gonna let that bitch dry, and then if you choose to, you can line it with vinyl. After that, you're gonna set up your pumps, you'll set up your chiller. I do recommend getting some ice bags when you fill it, so that way it's already pre-chilled. You don't have to wait for the chiller to do as much of the work because it will take some time. Now, here's what I've learned after building 2 chest freezers from scratch. One, you want to ensure you have a drainage plug that you did not completely fill. Now, I'm going to be honest, I filled the drainage plug with rubber sealant, and I am in the process of actually draining this right now by hand using a bucket, and you are gonna see a little bit of a B-roll of me doing that, just so you can see what you're in for if you do not add a drainage plug. Once I get all the water out, I will be drilling a drainage plug into the cold plunge, and I will put a spigot on it so I'm able to turn it to open it to let it drain or not. But the intention of this with this build is to have a self-sustaining plunge. The only way I'm having to change the water in mine is because the power went out at my place while I was gone, and the entire timer got completely reset, and the still water ended up getting pretty gross, and yours truly doesn't want to get in that. Now, here's what I've learned. You need to ensure you have a drainage plug, otherwise you'll have to drain manually consistently. You need to make sure you have an ozone generator chiller, and make sure that they're on timers to sustain optimal operation. Now, I recommend having 2 pumps going at a time, so that way the water is not still, and that can also be on a timer. Now, to conclude, crafting a cold plunge at home is not about luxury, it's about investing in your well-being. And by understanding the process and incorporating the lessons I learned above, you can create your own high-end cold plunge experience without breaking the bank. Now, remember to prioritize the factors that I shared, like having drainage, having timer controlled systems, and reliable equipment for optimal performance. With that being said, if you found this video valuable, or if you have any questions, if you liked something I had to say, or if you had some feedback, do me a favor, drop a comment, leave a like down below. I will tag the previous build of the cold plunge here. But with that being said, I appreciate y'all being here. This is how you build a $10,000 cold plunge with less than $1,000 so you don't break the bank. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.